Let's go.
Good evening, WBSC, and welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening as we celebrate World Whiskey Day. We're taking a trip to Switzerland, and until recently, the Swiss were known for their chocolate, but a man by the name of Dr. Dolph Stockhausen set out to add a single malt whiskey to that list with an amazing innovation in the world of whiskey. We appreciate your interest in new innovations as we dig into the whiskey aging process. Tonight, our Whisky Network team of writers and special guests are going to sample and give our opinions of the 5 Seven Seals expressions that have been aged with this innovative process. Please follow along as we taste through their sherrywood, port, Amarone, peated port, and peated doublewood finished expressions. All these products are available for purchase at shop.7sealsinnovation.com. And we'll give you that again towards the end. So if you want to go to their site, you can certainly go and purchase that if it's not available in your area. So now we raise a glass to World Whiskey Day. Cheers, WBSC, Whisky Network, and everybody on the team.
Cheers.
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 So now, without further ado, I turn it over to Whisky Network's editor-in-chief, Mark Pruitt.
I'm supposed to talk? What am I supposed to talk about?
Something.
Whiskey.
So,
Start with whiskey.
Yeah, no, I can go on about whiskey. So I'll give everybody a quick introduction of who's here, just so you know who's talking and what's happening. First, it's my pleasure to introduce Volker Huber. He's the president and CEO of Seven Seals Whisky. A great story and a great memory as I met him in person at Whiskey Fest last year in Las Vegas. And it was very busy at the Seven Seals booth, and I happened to stop by, and he said, you know what, why don't you stop by a little bit later? And I said, that's just fine. And if you've ever been to Whiskey Fest, there's a lot of whiskey that flows around. So I show up at the end of the evening and most of the whiskey is gone. And I said, well, I missed all of the great whiskey. And Volker says, I've got you. And he pulls a bottle from out of somewhere under the table, and him and I go to the side of the booth behind the curtain, like a couple of high school students hiding that were smoking. And we had something. I have no idea what it was, but it was exactly at that moment that I said, you and I were friends and we have to get to know each other better from a whiskey perspective. So there's your story about sharing whiskey. Next up, business development manager, Dylan Stein. I wish I had an awesome story. So I'm going to hold you responsible for Whiskey Fest 2024 in Vegas. You and I are going to have a better story to tell that will trump that. That will go over there. Of course, you know Bill, you know myself. In April, I wrote the interview with Dr. Stockhausen, and that was a lot of fun to go through to get to know him and have him answer the questions. With us, we have Nate Barlow. You guys are all familiar with Nate. Nate has been writing a 6-piece series for Whisky Network on independent bottling. He is a filmmaker. He's one of the producers for The Water of Life and also the independent bottling docuseries that's coming up. In his copious free time, he is also restoring a silent film. So welcome, Nate. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Also with us, we have Joe Galino. Everybody knows Joe, Whisky Network superstar, and his superpower is pairing whiskey and cigars. He talks about flavors in both whiskey and cigars that I could only dream of. In our April issue, he paired up a Don V Maduro with all 3 of the non-peated expressions that they have. His favorite was the sherry, and I'm hoping tonight the sherry pulls through for you, Joe. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers. Also joining us tonight is Vicki Higginson. She is the Whisky Network cocktail maven. For our focus issue on Seven Seals, she developed an amazing cocktail called Zurich. It is a take on the Manhattan.
Cocktails.
Yes, you did do 2 cocktails, actually. So all things cocktail, whether it's whiskey or whether it's something else, you should definitely check out her section of the site and check out all the amazing things that she does. Welcome, Vicki.
Thank you.
Also with us, Genevieve. In honor of the moment, I'm going to call her the Swiss Army knife of Whisky Network. She does a ton of stuff for us behind the scenes, but up front, she's also been filling in the whiskey kitchen. She did the golden raspberry truffles that utilize the Portwood expression of Seven Seals. And if you haven't checked that out, everybody in this room agreed that we all want to try making it because it looks absolutely delicious.
So good.
Welcome, Genevieve. Also joining us, Coulter Stevenson. Coulter Stevenson is a regular contributor to us. He has recently come up with a new section called Dice and Drams. It's interesting how all of us sort of turned up as board game geeks when he decided to come up with this idea. Everybody loved this, and he's now done, I think, 3 or 4 of these things, and it's amazing. But he did connect, let me see, I have to look here. The Dice and Drams, he paired the peated double wood with a board game called Barrage. It's a very interesting take. Those Saturday nights when you're not watching a Whisky Network tasting, you're playing board games with your friends. It's a very interesting thing to take a look at. So welcome, Coulter.
Thank you. Cheers.
Last but not least, my best friend here in Los Angeles, the Fonz, Alphonse Palaima. He was a producer on the Water of Life film and has consumed drams in just about every part of the world. A very unique honor for him. He is also an accomplished drone pilot. So all of those wonderful scenes that you have in the Water of Life that you're looking at, some of the most breathtaking scenery, he was piloting the drone that did that. And as from what I remember, the mountain goat that is Jim McEwen took you on some treacherous path and had you guys like perched over some cliffs, and what an amazing story that was. Another time we can talk about that. So I know you've got a couple of other things in the works, and I hear that you got a big deal to distribute them all with Blockbuster Video. Is that right?
Yeah, it's true. We got our cards ready. We're ready to go get it. The next film.
Welcome, Fonz.
Distribution nationwide.
Absolutely. Well, as you can tell, we have some incredible palettes in the room, and I am very excited for us to go live and to explore this. So the best thing that I can do is I can get the hell out of the way and I can turn it over to Volker. And Volker is going to go through a few things, and then we're going to get started tasting the expressions. So Volker, by all means, please jump in and take over.
Thank you very much, Mark. So first of all, I'm president and CEO of Seven Seals in the USA. We have to talk about the company in general at first. We own a distillery that has a history that goes back to 1857 in Switzerland, making whiskey in the beginning, but then it became illegal in the meantime, and I will talk about that in a minute. And we also own part of a distillery in Ireland, as well as a majority of a distillery in Canada, close to Ottawa. So we are a worldwide company. You might not have heard about us directly because Switzerland, like Mark said, is known for a lot of things. You said Genevieve is the Swiss Army knife of your company. Thank you for that little hint. And the Zurich has a connection to Switzerland too. So let me talk about myself for just 1 minute, why I sit in front of you, because we think authenticity is always very important when you're selling something. And I come directly from the Swiss border, but out of the German side. Unlike Dylan, who is a full-blooded Swiss guy, I am a couple of miles away at best.
With Swiss adjacent.
Swiss adjacent.
I like that. Swiss adjacent. There you go.
Yes. So I've been president of this company since 2018, when Dr. Dolph Stockhausen found me here in the US to help build up this great idea of Seven Seals that he has. That company has been developed, meaning that brand, in 2018. And it has a very revolutionary way of making whiskey without breaking with tradition. So this innovation that we bring to the market is something that I'm going to be talking about a little later. In the beginning, the plan was to talk about the company, then get you into that whiskey right away, because nobody wants to listen to me, quite frankly. If I'm Swiss adjacent or not, you're whiskey adjacent, and we should be focusing on that. And what I wanted to say, however, what do the Swiss stand for? A lot of people, when we introduce them to Swiss whiskey, people always say, "What's Switzerland? Swiss whiskey, Swisky? I've never heard of this." And quite frankly, these are usually the same people who said 30 years ago, "Japan making whiskey? I've never heard of this." But maybe it's time that more and more people enter this market of whiskey making, and it's not just the Scottish, the Irish, the US, and Canada. And we see a huge development in the category of rest of the world whiskeys. This is how we classify ourselves. This is where you can find us in most stores as well. But we set ourselves apart by being Swiss. And that means when you think about Switzerland, you think about quality, and you think about craftsmanship, and you think about longevity of products, and so on. And this is all that you need to make whiskey as well. This attention to detail in a crafts process to make a Rolex watch, a Swiss Army knife, or maybe cheese fondue. We know our taste buds too, right? Taste our chocolate and you will see that Switzerland has a lot to offer. However, whiskey in Switzerland here in the United States is now available in 10 different states. We have distribution in California, Nevada, Georgia, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Florida, and other states. And in those states, you can buy us directly in stores such as Total Wine or other chains, but you can also find us online, like you said before, at our shop. But now, without further ado, we had our first taste. We want to go to the sherry wood finish, and I'm going to hand over to Dylan.
Volker, before you jump to Dylan, I want to point out, I think maybe you glossed over this, and I don't want this to get lost in translation. Seven Seals has a ton of momentum in the whiskey world. We were talking a little bit earlier. You guys have 79 gold medals. You have 15 double golds. That's an impressive resume. So
Yes,
let's not forget about that. I know it's kind of humble to talk about you being a Swiss whiskey, but 79 gold medals is kind of a dominant force. So let's not gloss over that. Congratulations on your awards.
I appreciate that, and I have that lined up to talk about. So the humble Swiss approach I did in the beginning, but I've lived in the States long enough that I will start bragging about our achievements a little later. And,
Venmo me $20 for bringing it up sooner.
Absolutely, yeah. You get a bottle of Pisces.
Okay, good. I can live with that.
Bottle of Pisces is on the way for you. So,
hello.
You guys can always interrupt me, by the way. If there are any questions, you can either write them in the chat. You can interrupt me. I have no issue coming back to the original topic. I planned, because I wasn't sure who I'm going to be speaking to today on the panel and how well you know whiskey. I thought I'd grab you by the knowledge, what whiskey is, how it's made, what the whiskey regions are, talk about the rest of the world. But you guys are all experts. I think we should be tasting this now. And that's why I'm handing it over to Dylan.
Boy, do we have you fooled. Okay, good.
Well, thank you very much, Volker. Thank you, Mark, Bill, and the whole Whisky Network team for having us. This is very exciting. So here we've got our beautiful Seven Seals tasting boxes here that we've all carefully prepped, ready to go. So we'll be tasting through the sherry wood finish, Amarone, port, peated port, and the peated double port finish. Very excited to get into that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the sherry here.
This is how the big bottle looks like.
Yeah.
That's the orange one. And like Mark said, we only write on there that we have a double gold or a gold medal in San Francisco, because we realize 79 gold medals will look kind of ridiculous.
I say go for it.
On it.
Put it on there.
So if we've all seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Whiskey. So
You can only get 30 stickers on those little bottles.
Exactly. So right off the bat, where you're kind of observing this beautiful golden color. And I think one thing that's really important to note, I know we're going to get into the full Stockhausen method later, but everything about this whiskey is all natural, no caramel coloring added, no chemicals used whatsoever. So I think that's always a very important fact to state, especially when you get this beautifully rich color here. So this sherry wood's going to give you nice bold notes on the nose, some subtle fruit, toffee, gingerbread, little roasted almonds. On the palate, you're going to get, it's going to be really soft. That's one of the biggest benefits of our method. second biggest benefit that we'll get into later is really how smooth it comes off in the finish. Nice medium long, a little bit earthy, nice balanced hint of orange and zest.
And by the way, all of the first three, the Amarone, so the sherry wood, the Amarone, the port, and the peated port are all 46% alcohol.
Yes.
So for being at 46% alcohol, once we start going via the nose to the palate and then the finish, you will see it's very, very smooth. And I will explain later why that is.
I want to add a little note in here. I reviewed this a while back, and I found something on the nose that was very unique. Kind of curious if anybody else picks up on it. And before I even say what it is, keep in mind everybody's palate and everybody's nose is different, so you're going to pick up different things. But I get a hint of pineapple on the nose of this right in the beginning.
I do too.
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah.
My nose is translating that to be a very a wine, sort of a Pinot or just kind of a nice full-bodied red wine kind of note.
Perhaps sherry.
I noticed that as well, Mark. It smells very. The texture of the smell, that makes the texture of the nose is like wine to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's pleasant. It's very pleasant.
Yeah,
I get maple. I get maple, and I love maple. So.
All right,
it's
let's
very
taste
sherry forward, as you can see.
Yes,
but what we do with our method is we prepare the wood, and I'm going to talk about that later, to get all the richness of wood flavors. So a lot of people tell us we're very wood forward. Yes, and we are doing that on purpose, because that is exactly how we set ourselves apart. But there's much more exciting stuff on the horizon. So what else do you guys taste? I love the color on it.
I'll tell you,
the color is absolutely gorgeous. You don't see it in the little bottle as much as in the bigger one. Right. So this is just.
It's fine. I just want to pour a little. This knows it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And one thing that I really love about this lineup that we've got too, and I think is one of our biggest attributes, is it really feels like there's an expression that fits kind of everybody's palate. We're going to be going from non-peated to slightly peated, fully peated. So it's perfect for anybody along their single malt journey. You know, if people are a bit more averse to the smoke, we'll point them in this direction for like bourbon lovers and people in that field. This is a great thing to kind of introduce them to the style and flavor profiles of single malt without, you know, forcing them right into the smoke as well.
I don't know what I
have some notes. Is everybody using Glencairn? Sorry, Joe, I didn't see you there. I apologize.
I was going to say I have some notes from that pairing review article that I did on the nose. I get like cream cantaloupe over like a ginger greens, orange marmalade, and there's like a almost like a cocoa infused finish on that nose. On the palate, it's nice thick viscosity, which I love and Phil loves.
Yep.
Then you get that explosion of orange tangerine over. I get like a light hickory or some kind of earthy note there on the finish. Those tangerine and hickory notes just kind of melt to that nice little hint of spice.
Yeah, I get.
Well, I'm thinking we might need you for some tasting notes down the line. Anytime we need to test some new products, how about that?
Anytime.
Magic.
Nate, what were you getting, Nate?
I was gonna say I agree with Bill about the pineapple. I get a combination like pineapple and ginger with some dried fruit, so it's a very almost tropical feel.
Tropical fruit
for me. And I agree about Joe about the earthy notes. There's maybe some nuttiness in there. It's got that on the palate, especially on the nuttiness.
What I'm getting unmistakably on the palate, and I don't pick this up on the nose, it's toffee. The toffee just jumps off of the page when you're tasting it, and even like the mouthfeel and the texture of it, it's like it's toffee and nuts, and it's interesting. I expected it to taste like something different given the nose that it had, but having it on the palate and even with the finish, it's just unmistakable that that toffee is very long lasting.
It's basically a smorgasbord, and it has it all. What's next?
Yeah. we're looking to step outside the box from
I mean, what is not in there? It's all in there. Everything you want's in there.
One thing that I think sticks out through nose, palate, and finish is the ginger. To me, the gingerbread has that little bit of spiciness to it, but that ginger comes off on the nose. It's on the palate and it's on the finish. So the ginger shines through, but tropical fruit is it really dances on your palate as you're getting the front part of the palate going through it, and it's just an amazing whiskey.
I'm not getting the pineapple so much, but I definitely did get the warm baking spices. And like Mark said, the toffee has that burnt edge to it, so it pulls the oak in. I assume this is oak.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Anybody getting that earthiness, like that hickory note in the back?
I do.
Oh yeah,
I do.
that's very much the wood starts to shine in the finish for sure. Fonz, what do you got? Mute, Bubba.
You're muted, Fonz.
Sorry about that. Yeah, earthy, musty. It's well, I've only had one sip of it, but I'm really surprised by the difference between the nose and the palate. Like it's got mouthfeel, it's got a ton of flavor, and everything Joe said too.
Everything.
Awesome.
Joe, what you said about the cocoa, that resonates with me. I get like a dark chocolate kind of cocoa all the way from palate to finish. That's what I pick up most, I think, on the palate. It's delicious.
Like a cocoa powder almost.
Yeah, more cocoa powder than the chocolate. It's definitely that powdery.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it,
yeah,
you can pick that out.
Fonz, is that the universal symbol for it having legs?
Yeah, baby. I'm just pointing those legs out. I mean, look at that thing.
Yeah, no, it sits up on the glass, that's for sure.
Sturdy legs, ready to run a marathon.
That's right. All right, Dylan, what do you want to?
But it's not sharp.
Rating wise, I just went to the website. This one won the World Whiskey Awards. We were even the category winner. So apart from our 79 gold medals and the 15 double golds, we were also 10 times best whiskey in the competition. See, I can get the bragging part in. No
Very
problem.
nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Send that man a bottle.
All right, so our next one here, going to go into the Amarone finish. And now this is a very special finish, very uncommon, but we're starting to see a few more coming out. For those that might not be familiar, Amarone is a nice, bold red wine from northern Italy, typically aged in oak for 18 to 24 months. So what is really a big tannic red, when you introduce that wood to the whiskey, it surprisingly gives like this beautiful mix of dried berries, vanilla, a little bit of sweet apple there on the nose, and like a little touch of cinnamon that's gonna fall right up.
By the way, this is how the bigger bottle will look like. It has a very 3D textured label. This is a very beautiful bottle, fits right in our line. The government warning will, we have all the label approval and so on. When you're coming over from Switzerland to the States, you need to make sure that your labels display that pregnant women shouldn't be drinking, or you're not operating heavy machinery. Otherwise, you're going to get trouble with the TTB. Yeah.
Light machinery is okay though. Light machinery is fine.
Yeah, light machinery. Yeah.
I always think
I'm pregnant, everybody. I can't drink this.
Just a forklift.
I'm very excited to try this one because I love Amarone wine. I love again, it's not a very common finish, but the ones I've had, I've loved the Amarone finished whiskeys I've had. I definitely got those a mixed berry on the nose for sure.
Interesting color too.
Beautiful color in my opinion. Yeah.
But it's different than the sherry wood. This is
it's a bit lighter,
more of a honey color. It's
Yeah,
it's very interesting. My brain is translating the nose to a cotton candy, sugary kind of note.
I get candy, but I can't put my finger on cotton candy. But yeah, there's some kind of candy note there.
I got a little bit of apple.
Yeah.
Little green
I'm
apple.
feeling stone fruits and like charred peaches.
apple rind is not the flesh of the apple, but the rind of the apple.
Exactly.
That earthy flavor, that texture
with
seems
a little
to be
bit of
coming
that
through.
spice from the rind, you know, that fits in
Yeah. Yeah, the
All right.
wine's really prominent.
I'm tasting this.
Yeah, you taste the red wine, you taste a little bit of again, spicy ginger cookies, but I find this one has a little bit of vanilla in it as well. What do you guys think about the vanilla? Maybe a touch of cinnamon.
Yeah, there's spice.
Definitely.
Is what I'm getting.
Spice on the finish. There's a very
yes,
there's a very nice halo
It's
of
got
spice.
such a really nice round mouth presence. I don't want to say mouth feel, but
That like nice like oaky creaminess.
But you did anyway.
yeah, I know, right?
Joe just hit it. There's a very nice, pleasant creaminess to this.
Yeah.
It's like vanilla cream.
I don't think it's that sweet.
Very,
No,
very fruity and-
it's
very fruity.
yeah.
Does anybody else?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Bill, I
Yeah.
actually get tropical on this one versus the other one. I got a little bit of that like light pineapple to it on the tasting, which is odd because I smelled the apple in the front. So I expected that to come through.
Definitely
I get-
fruitier than the sherry version. And then does anybody get pine cones in there?
No, I get pear.
Yeah, a little. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pear, I do get to. I do get pear. Pine cones very hard, but Joe, your palate is so much more refined than mine that I tend to just nod when you say something. But no, I don't. I don't get pine cones. If I'm really honest, I don't get them.
I get. To me,
I
it gives
gotta
me
be honest,
kind
I've
of
never eaten a pine cone. So.
Yeah.
Well, there's IPA beer, and so anytime you go near pine trees in a cocktail, I think IPA
Gin,
beer,
yeah.
and then I just
You haven't lived, Bill.
then my brain.
Gotta get outside more, Bill. Come on.
What about grapefruit? Does anybody get grapefruit?
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's some
Yeah.
sort of
The bitterness of the grapefruit. So, sorry, I just want to interrupt, Mark.
There's some citrus in there. I don't know if I could call it grapefruit, but yeah.
Yeah,
like
I'm
the
agreeing
grapefruit
with
fish.
Joe that there's a distinct high note that's there, but my palate keeps telling me that it's candy. There's a candy flavor to it.
I get some citrus on the nose. On the palate, I mean, I do get the red wine, but it's a very structured red wine. It wouldn't be like, it's not a light red wine or a fruitier red wine like a young Zin or some Pinots. It's more of a structured, similar to more of a Cabernet or a Syrah or something that's got a lot of structure to it.
I would say like a Cab Franc almost.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to say that you can pull everything you want out of any of these pours because every single one of them is a flavor bomb, period.
Yeah.
There is so
These
much
are
flavor in every single one of these expressions. That's it.
fantastic complexity to these. It's
Yeah.
and it's amazing how just these two expressions that we've tasted, they're vastly different. And we're talking about these are two very different expressions
Yeah,
that
they
give
are.
you two very
Definitely.
different things, and that's amazing.
Does anyone get dark chocolate on the back end? I agree on the sherry there was some cocoa, but this I get some dark chocolate right at the end.
Right. Yeah. In my notes, I have on the finish, everything kind of melts away to like a nice spice nuttiness, and then like a chocolate chalkiness again. Like
Agree with that.
I get kind
Chalkiness
of
is a
that-
great word.
Yeah, I get that kind of mocha and a little bit of like almost a bitter coffee on the end.
Yeah, the
There's
coffee.
definitely an end edge to it.
So this is
I hope that you guys see that we really try to layer the flavors so that
Absolutely.
sometimes the nose might be a little more surprising, but the way we toast our wood, and as I said, I'm going to go into details and how we use more surface area to reach that level. The idea is that our whiskeys do not disappear into nothingness, but they linger nicely and long. And we know all about how does it come across in the front of your mouth, in the middle portion. We take the mouthfeel into consideration, and then how it finishes. How hot is it? It's not hot at all for a 46%
Not at
alcohol.
all.
Yeah.
I would say.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, these are
Yeah.
definitely whiskeys for the advanced palate. Like even if you have an advanced palate, you're going to be satisfied with these whiskeys.
Mhm.
100%.
I personally feel like we're going to see more and more Amarone, so it's good to be on the front edge of that because I think it's a fantastic finish on every for any whiskey.
It's
Yeah.
flying off the shelf in Europe.
Delicious.
In Europe, Germany, Switzerland, where we already had introduced it, the market says, wow, we've never had this. And like you said, Nate, we're ready for a finish that really ties in nicely, but it's different enough to get the attention of people.
Well, it's such a unique wine to begin with.
Yes.
That
Yes.
plays into it heavily. The unique way it's made with the drying of the grapes and some of the, it's so it's going to impart something different than other types of wine finishes. I think the wine finishes that stand out the most are ones that have that uniqueness. Port, which is another favorite we got coming up, is another, Sauterne because of the botrytis. They're the one. I think those stand out among wine finishes in a way that Amarone, that any, I won't say just any old red wine barrel would be, but you get what I'm saying. That wines that have wines that have a very unique character really stand out in their finishes.
Definitely.
Yeah. If you want
We
to
call that
explore,
we honor the source, right? We don't want to hide it in too much wood flavor and so on. An Amarone should give you the complexity of an Amarone, but tied in with the whiskey perfectly. That's what we specialize in.
Nice spice on the finish of this Amarone that just keeps the flavor lingering.
Thank you.
The finish on this lasts forever.
Forever.
I'm sitting here minutes after I took a sip.
Same.
It's still there.
Yeah.
I was
Sure.
about to say that too. Yeah.
Joe,
It
and
really
my
sits in the back, like right here in your mouth,
Mhm.
like over your molars almost. It feels like to me. Like I'm really location specific when I'm tasting. So I can feel like it's on the edge here or no, it's in the back. And it reminds me of was it A1 sauce back in the day? It gets you here.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
just sits right there and it's really lovely.
It's definitely the back of the mouth. Yeah.
Joe,
Mhm.
I wonder what kind of cigar would go well with this interesting profile. I'm not trying to put you. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Maybe.
No,
Old whiskey.
I'm Maduro. Maduro, in my
Yeah.
opinion, I've come to the conclusion that when it comes to single malts and these special barrel finishings on these single malts, a nice like chocolatey Maduro does the job.
Wow, that would just be a flavor bomb between the two of those things.
That would be delicious.
All right,
I'd have to
Dylan?
take exception to that with Joe, but he loves his Maduro cigars, and he features them a lot. I like the Connecticut Wrap, a milder cigar that I think would complement that very well.
Yeah,
And
the
not
Maduros are
overpower.
aged longer, they're chocolatier, they're coffee
Yeah,
flavors,
I agree with
leatheriness,
that.
and I love all those type of flavors in the cigar. A little bolder, basically.
Yeah. All right, we have a few more to get through because
Yeah,
we can wax poetic about this one all night long.
Absolutely.
But I want to
Maybe
make
I
sure.
should say, sorry, maybe I should just mention that this one will be available Q3, Q4 here in the United States. The first place to buy it again is our shop online. But Dylan, I hand over to you. I did my sales spiel. And now it's up to you again.
Volker, I have a question for you from one of our viewers in the group. Wants to know what is your favorite of these 5 expressions?
So
I haven't
that's a
gotten through the
question that
rest
I
of
get
them
a
yet.
lot of times. The Amarone has a special place in my heart, but I lived for 2 years with only the 3 expressions: the sherry wood, the portwood, and the peated portwood. I must say I like my Isla style whiskey, so I tend to gravitate towards peated. But funny enough, a whiskey needs to have a certain atmosphere for me. So I like to sit out. I have a or a table with a fire in the middle, and there I drink my peated portwood finish. Let's make it simple. This is my Wednesday. This is my Friday. This is my Saturday. It really depends on the mood, is what I'm trying to express.
Yeah.
Who you're drinking with, what you're doing. What type of meal did you have before? I can tell you that my private bar at home, for some reason, the sherry wood evaporates quicker than the others, and I don't know why.
Ah, just
Volker,
up into the
Based
air
on
like that.
statistics, it is the
Heavy
sherry.
gravity.
Really high angel share there.
yes.
Elevation wise, we're at 4,500 feet, so it needs to be an angel share out of the bottle.
Angel share.
I guess.
Yeah, that's
Volker,
that
I wasn't
mile
gonna
high
call you
gravity.
out.
Right.
But I saw
Oh,
at the beginning of the broadcast before we went live, you just kind of reached under your desk and you casually had a box of Glencairns available. So I figured if you have that hardware at your fingertips, you're probably indulging. But you know, maybe you'll have to commission a study as to why it evaporates so fast in your area.
It is the desert climate. I live in Reno, Nevada, and obviously sherry wood goes much quicker than no.
Port, you know,
Obviously.
it's just a simple matter of density. That's really, you know. Well, I imagine that, yeah.
I hope I answered the question of your viewer appropriately. I tend to prefer the sherry. If I could only drink one out of those that we're tasting today, I would hate life.
Clark Nolsrak is the one asking the question, and he said, "There you go, sherry wood for the win."
There we
Yep.
go.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Right now, I'm really a fan of the Amarone. I think I'm gonna have to go back and do another recipe because that has spoken to me.
Yeah, you'd be well served with either of the two that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys, I poured the Portwood thinking we were going to jump ahead, and don't leave this one out.
He said, "Hold on, there's more to be had."
You can only judge by what
Roll
we've
your
had
roll,
so
buddy.
far.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan, let's get into the next one.
All
Yes.
right. Without further ado, we're getting into the Portwood finish here. This one's going to just have a touch of peat. I like to call it kind of the Goldilocks of the family, just right there in the middle. This one is nice and complex on the nose, multi-layered. You definitely get a clear sense of the port in that, and obviously a nice hint of peat as well.
Tawny port too, I would say. Not definitely a tawny.
Yep.
And I want to point out to everybody in our audience that everybody that knows me in our network, Whisky Network and WBSE, knows that I'm not a big fan of particularly coastal peats. I don't like the iodine and Band-Aid, but these, before we even get into the rest of the peated ones, these are not like that. These are more in the line of barbecue smoke kind of smell and taste. So
Campfire is how I describe it a lot of times. Campfire.
Yeah.
Not. You know, I love Lafroig, I love Lagavulin, I love you know, Buchladig, and so on. The Isla is has a very nice profile, but it is an acquired taste. It's surely fun to acquire.
I've never.
I always tell people it's fun to acquire, but we don't start with an aftertaste, is what I always say. Lafroig already starts with what you're going to be tasting at the end. We again layer to make it complex and not just punch that smoke into your face.
I would go beyond barbecue smoke to like barbecue sauce. There's a really it's like that kind of complexity of a spicy barbecue sauce in there.
Yeah.
So
I have made barbecue sauce with it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
No, honestly, this is the one that I chose, and that's why I find it so interesting, Nate. I make my own. I barbecue. I smoke meats, and this is.
I'll have to talk.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hey, is the address where we need to go on this flyer?
To my house, absolutely. Rib cook-off will be announced.
Yeah.
Volker, I'm going to be in Reno, Tahoe in July, so
I'll look at him make a
stop it.
plan.
I'm here.
I'll stop at your place.
Currently, I have a broken toe, and I'm bound to this area right now.
You can't run fast. Get him.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Right.
can't chase me as I'm running out of the building with a case of this stuff.
We'll have to call a tow truck.
I have to say,
Bring a tow truck when you come by. And I know how to spell TOE in that case.
I have to say, this is really giving me the Highland Park heather taste to it. which I'm a big fan
That's
of.
a good comparison.
So the nose, just the nose. You know when you get Bruichladdich, Classic Laddie, and it's the changing of the stuff that's in the stills. They don't clean out what was in there before. So sometimes, if you're lucky, you can get a Classic Laddie that has a little bit of a peat on the profile. It's not mellow gold like what a Classic Laddie is, but it's just that the aroma or the profile is there's a whiskey there. This is a big, bold whiskey with that port that's in there. And you just get a very nice hint of smoke in the background. And I agree 100%. It's very much it's a barbecue sauce, smoky, sweet, and spicy that kind of comes through. You know, I can't say it enough. Of the three that we've tasted, this is the biggest whiskey. This is a big, full-bodied whiskey that's delivering a huge punch. And I'm not trying to tip my cards, but I like this a lot.
Yeah, this is definitely not a medicinal peat, and I get honey and dark fruits on this as well on the palate.
I think the honey is there for sure. That barbecue sauce sense because there's a hint of sweetness, not just smoke.
Correct.
I do get that hint, very hint of peat at the very end.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
I had to sit for a minute to realize
definitely
that the peat was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Barbecue sauce comp is very good.
I like that a lot because I feel like this one you get more kind of dried fruits, like those dried dark fruits, as opposed to like more fresh tropical in the past examples.
No, this is like dried pineapple. Once you dry a pineapple and it's so dense, the flavor, and it's a little chewy, like this is like a dried pineapple and raisins for me.
And with also how dense these are, and with it being 92 proof, it really allows for like some flexibility how you want to enjoy it. If you like adding a drop of water, kind of think of it a bit more concentrated, it can open up even more aromas and flavors.
So I just put a drop of water in mine.
Okay.
And I just hit it again. And Vicky, put a drop of water in this, and the pineapple.
Why would I do that? Why would I do that?
These are still 46, right?
I'm thinking the same thing. It really doesn't need any water. I mean, it's fantastic the way it is.
No, exactly.
I'll take your lead, Mark.
Exactly. Yes.
No, I'm just saying it changed the profile.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like a science experiment, you know?
Yeah, we're going back and forth between like creamy and meatiness and like that fruity char. Nice boldness.
Definitely fruity, yeah.
Does anyone else get a spicy chocolate on the palate? I'm sort of sensing that a little bit.
After I put the water in, where I get a little bit more of that, I got a little bit of tropical, but in the back end I get some of that. I can see some spicy chocolate. You know, it's funny with water. You know, some whiskeys absolutely need it. Some don't need it at all. Some you can go either way. It just changes the profile, but they're equally. And I feel like it's equally. It's like it doesn't need it. But it's a great different, and you know, I could see myself drinking this sometimes with, sometimes without, depending on how I feel. I like
ones. I was trying to show you the legs on this one. The legs on this one are even better than the one before.
Very pronounced, yeah.
I actually
I agree with you. I do get dark chocolate after I added a couple drops of water to it. I didn't get it before, but I do get it now.
I've gotten some level of chocolate on all three of these so far, which is a great note. I mean, I love that. So it's delicious.
On the finish,
Volker's over there experimenting, guys.
Yeah, I'm experimenting right now. Yes, sir.
I saw a whole bottle of water. I was scared.
Yeah.
Like, I only have iced tea. I mean, I could mix it with iced tea, but.
I agree with Bill. I did not get the chocolate before I added the water, but after I added the water, I did.
Yeah.
One thing that is interesting, guys, when you take a look at all of our whiskeys being at 46%, the inventor, the owner, Dr. Dolph Stockhausen, looked at which percentage do we come out with our whiskey? What is the percentage? And of course, the lower the percentage, that means of alcohol means more water. But he says, no, it's not the same whiskey anymore. He wanted to have exactly that profile, and profits in that doesn't matter. You know, adding 6% alcohol, you need to be at 40%, so 80 proof to be called whiskey. But we're not even making compromises with that. We're dialing it in where the alcohol and the aromas really work well together.
Mm-hmm.
The salespeople in our team said, 40% sells way better. In Europe, it does. And
Not here.
we said, no, we're not making compromises.
America.
Yeah.
And something really cool happens with this port when you do pair it with that Maduro. You get like a cannoli cake filling note, which is
Oh man.
Oh, I'm hungry. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks.
All right, Dylan, you want to,
Yeah.
since the Portwood had a hint of peat, what if we jump into the other one that's full peat?
What if we went right into it, huh? So here's the peated portwood finish. This is big bottle here. Look at that beautiful color. I mean, it's just gorgeous.
It's hard to see in my lighting right now, but it's absolutely the big bottle is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like Volker was saying, this one's gonna come in more along the lines of that traditional Islay style Scotch whiskey with the good smoke. That's your
but
really
not Band-Aids on fire. It's not a hospital on fire.
No.
Whatever
Like
that
this
medicinal peatiness is, I call it always Band-Aids on fire or hospital on fire.
Some of us love Band-Aids on fire.
I love it. The iodine and the salt. I really like salty ones.
Yeah.
I had a Cal Isla 8 and it had such a nice salty presence to it.
One note I get with peat a lot is like a pickle, and I love it. I know some people are like, pickle, what?
Yeah.
I love that on peated whiskey, but
I love
I've tasted pickle.
Don't laugh at me now. And I got this with something out of Brooklotti as well. Bubblegum on the nose. Bubblegum.
Oh, interesting. Now that you say
Actually, I see this now.
Yeah, it's very like subtle and like very subtle and fruity.
Bubba.
Do you mean like bubblicious bubblegum, or do you mean like okay,
like Bazooka Joe bubblegum?
Right, the sweet pink one.
You know, it's funny because in my head, it's kind of like I get the peat flowing in, but then it almost feels like it carves around that bubble gumminess. After you say that, it quite literally imparted an image in my head, and I can totally see that.
So I get the candied orange. Definitely candied orange, where you get that little extra bit of sweetness coming out of it.
I'm getting back to spices with this.
It's
some
got
combination of
color, more so.
brine, the peat, and that sweetness. I'm with Coulter that it's pickles. Like that's what I get.
Vinegar.
That's the salty.
That's like a super light touch of vinegar and lots of allspice.
Sorry, Fonz, I cut you off.
Saying this is the deepest color so far, like the most robust, kind of very orange compared.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
That's all you cut off. I was adding that it's more honey, like it's more orange to the honey in the color, that it even shows what you say.
Yeah,
it's kind of like those chocolate oranges that you get at Christmas time,
where
it's got that creaminess to it, and then the orange and a little bitter, and then like you said, the kind of pickle. So it's like you ate it at the you know how the family has to all get every dish. You ate it after grandma's potato salad.
I'm getting like, if you like drizzled like honey over like mushrooms in the background.
Herbaceous.
That's apropos. I think that's right.
Like
on the nose.
Sweet dried fruits like raisins.
Yeah, dried fruit, definitely. Oh, like an apple?
I was gonna say like raisins, but yeah, like maybe like a dried apple for sure.
A raisin is good because you have that sweet and then a little bit of that extra something.
From
like molasses.
Ooh, yeah.
This is an incredible whiskey to be a gateway to peat because it's not overpowering, and it's a great marriage of so many of those things. And whoever said molasses actually just nailed it, because that's that everything sort of coming together. And the thing that really captures my attention about the three whiskeys so far, all of these have had tremendous mouthfeel. Not a one of these has been like a thin sort of evaporate or whatever. a lot, these linger, these tend to stick around on
Yes.
your palate after you've had them. It's
They're beautiful from the start to the end. Yeah.
yeah.
Some of them have been almost syrupy, like very thick,
This one is.
viscous.
This one is very viscous and very syrupy.
Well, and it's a
Delicious.
92, which you know, sipping this is, I would think that this was a much lower percentage just from the overall feel and the ability to taste everything in there. Because you get some of those, we know, as they inch toward 100, you start to get where the alcohol kind of blinds the flavor, you know, because it hits the tongue, like, and it shocks your tongue.
Right.
Okay,
And
drop of water,
this
because
one
I really
is
want to
really
see what
smooth.
happens with that drop of water.
I get some plum and dark cherries and raisins on the palate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this one to me, like this is the smoothest finish, I think, in my opinion. Like, just flawless.
What
It's
I
interesting.
like about it is, number one, that in the beginning you have, like you were describing, Dylan, you have like two, the peat goes separate and the other flavor is kind of embedded in it.
Yeah.
But then they marry in the back of your mouth, and then they stay both. And when you said, Mark, at that whiskey fest, I think a lady coined the term. She said, "I don't like peat," and I'm like, "Try it, you know, just a little bit." And she said, "Oh, this is accessible peat."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that term so much. I do think it sounds like a gangster name from the 20s. You know, where you have, you know, Crazy Bob and
Accessible Pete.
It's
Yeah,
Hospital Light.
Yeah.
Hospital Light.
Hospital. Yeah,
Yes.
Accessible Pete is what I really you call it gateway, Mark, but
Yes.
I like how it marries those flavors. That, like, sometimes peat is competing, and
Yeah.
it's the only thing that's remaining.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've all had whiskeys where you drink and at the end you go, "I smell myself breathing out at this point."
Nice,
I'm
nice
like
balance. Nice
optimal.
balance with that creaminess and that fruitiness for like an answer. I kind of
Sure.
introduce somebody to that.
Well, and right now, after
Yeah.
having the first peated version, like close your mouth, exhale, and all you smell is char, like you just pull the brisket off the grill. I mean, it's barbecue, I should say, off the smoker.
Sure.
It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not a peat fan, and those of you that have been around WBSC and Whisky Network for a while know that I'm not a peat fan. This is
I'm
definitely
doing all I can to
approachable.
change it, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I can drink. You know,
Wow,
it's
that's
not
high
a frog.
praise.
It's not a coastal peat that tastes like iodine and Band-Aids. This is a very approachable peat whiskey that you should give a try. If your friends are drinking peat and you just don't like them, give this a try. You'll be a changed man when it comes to drinking peated whiskeys.
I'm gonna call this whiskey. I'm gonna call this whiskey this peated whiskey here, like it's like a soy sauce for your egg roll.
Wow.
Interesting.
Umami. I put a drop of water in
Yeah.
it, and what the drop of water did, the drop of water was like rocket fuel for the peat. The peat all of a sudden jumped
Yeah.
off of the page.
Same here. I find it much more
You're
prevalent.
gonna make
after
us
water.
follow you, aren't you?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I need a spoon or something to add this water.
I find that the nose is slightly different than what you taste too. So it doesn't.
What I use, Jen, eyedropper.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a pipette at home, but
They're in the other room.
Like $4 on Amazon
Yeah.
for 3 of these or
It's
whatever.
yeah.
the easiest way to add a couple and not over water it down.
I think I have a pack of like 100 of those. I just don't have them in this room.
I'm
So
sure Nate will agree with this. You can totally ruin a glass of whiskey if you add too much water to it.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's why only a drop or two, unless it's like, you know, cast strength and, you know, super young, maybe then you can put like several drops in. I've had a few. There was a Kilholman a few years ago. Oh, no, I think it was, or Kilkerran. It was like super young and super peaty. Like you needed.
It was the 2 or 3-year-old that they put out
Yes.
that was super hot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was hot. I mean, it was bash you over the head, and that one you needed more than a couple. I mean, I would drink it, but I could Yeah, this is even after you add the water. I mean, and the peat I think comes out more with the water. I still think it would be a good intro to peat. You know, my wife is not a huge peat fan, but I know which one she likes, with one weird exception, really odd exception. But this would be because it's a really peated whiskey, that exception for someone who otherwise does not like peat. But this would be something that you could go for.
Funny enough, also the peat lovers like it though, right? I'm an Isla kind of style, right?
Yeah.
You were testing
I like it.
with Isla type peat before I started working here, and I always thought peat is so dominating, right? I got introduced to like peat with Octomore, Lafroy, Lagavulin, and I'm like, yeah, I like the taste, but I did not know that there are whiskeys out there that use it a little more playful, that peat, a little more accessible, like I call it, accessible peat. And that's
I love peat, but this is, I mean,
you said it's good for the people who don't like peat. Yeah. What I'm saying is it's also good for the people who like peat and say,
yes,
that's a different take on peat. I like this.
Well,
as someone who drinks Lafroig, I like Lafroig. I love Lafroig. This is good whiskey.
Love it, yeah.
Right.
That's what I mean. Coulter, that's exactly what I mean. Yes, sir.
So Fonz, what's your take on it?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Fonz.
What's your take?
Oh,
on
me? No.
Yeah, you, Fonz.
No, I was just backing them up, but I was gonna add that. Right. Mark said, "Oh, I'll put a little water in there," so I did, and it added a little caramel on the side, and it was like, I was completely happy with the way it was straight out of the bottle, with Band-Aid Light, Peat Light, etc. But it added an extra level that I was surprised to see.
I got milk chocolate when I did the water, like a rounding.
There's your sweetness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a little. Then it kind of pushed the peat to the outside a little bit. So then you got this milk chocolate, but then like Vicky said, it's like smoke, like and I'm, she and Volker and I need to get together because I'm an avid smoker and meat smoker. You should say.
Are you guys throwing chocolate bars in your barrels over there in Switzerland?
Yeah, right. It is Switzerland,
right?
They should. I mean, if anybody's going to, it makes sense.
That might be the next finish we do,
Vicky, what is it you do? You do like a washed, like you do a fat wash. Could you do a chocolate wash on this?
You certainly could. I've certainly done that. I did a brown butter and dark chocolate wash on a American whiskey. You could definitely do that on this. It would change your life.
Oh, have to run that by production and see.
Telling you.
You guys thought about trying doing like a stout cask finish?
What?
A stout cask.
Stout beer.
Oh,
no, we have not. We're trying in the future also different things.
I want to say your whiskey will fare well in a stout cask finish.
Oh yeah,
that's a great idea.
I like that too.
Chocolate that would turn into chocolate muffins.
It would, right.
Oh, just terrible.
I think you're hungry, Mark.
Competed double chocolate.
Yes.
Joe, you're making me so hungry. Can we eat, Joe? Can somebody who's in charge? Joe, please do not talk anymore. I'm about to leave the office and go eat.
Moderator, cut off his mic.
So the final note on this particular expression, Volker, I'm putting on my marketing cap. Why don't you copy 19 crimes and put a QR code on there? And the criminal is accessible Pete. He's a safe cracker.
Yes.
I love that.
I'll send you the invoice for my marketing consulting.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan, let's move on to the last one.
Dylan, you want to take us to the last one? Yes.
Last but not least, we're ending off with a real bang. So this is our peated double wood finish, cask strength proof as well. So this one is coming in at 58.7%. And if my math serves me correctly, that's, I believe, 117.4 proof.
I might have to sit this one out.
This
that's
is the first
that's incredibly hot.
It's okay, Mark. It's okay, Mark. You're with friends. You'll make it.
Yeah.
You said this is peated?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't come across on the nose.
Man, I'm not smelling any peat. I'm not smelling any peat on this.
The bubble gum is still there
for sure. You
Still
definitely
get that bubble gum.
So this one, I
Really?
feel like it's a bit more of a complex peat where you actually get like some light floral notes with a bit of sweet dried fruits. But I agree. I think the peat is a lot more integrated on the palate. I think because it does have that double wood finish, that perhaps the peat is a bit more balanced out by the wood on that.
So tell me what double wood is. Is it finished in two different types of wood? What
now, Bill, that we're at the last whiskey, and everybody can still taste it and enjoy it, I maybe should tell you now what you've tasted. So first of all of those whiskeys are 3 years old. Not 12, not 15, although they really taste like that. And that is because we looked at the maturation in a barrel very closely. And when you look at a barrel, how a barrel is shaped, and that the interaction between the wall of the barrel that might be saturated with, let's say, sherry, and how that interacts. Think about it, a ball is the least amount of surface area to volume. And a barrel is not that far off at the end of the day, which means why were barrels even used to make whiskey? Why not longer shapes? Why not more surface area? The moment you make it longer, for example, which people are playing with, shorter barrel size, smaller. But at the end, it's all about surface to alcohol. How do they react when they touch, right? And what is extracted? And there is a subtractive maturation and an additive maturation. Out of the perspective of the alcohol, the subtractive maturation is alcohols of the wrong chain length are being pulled out, and additive is vanillins, wood sugars, and so on. The issue with that is that they burn out those barrels so hot that a lot of times you don't get those toasty flavors of the wood. What you described as woodiness and so on are just burned off, right? And now there's a little bit, depending on the char level, is a little barrier even in a shape that doesn't even make much sense in the first place. But people needed to roll barrels before forklifts were invented, and you need to make it stackable. That's barrel shape. That if you want to handle this without a forklift, that's what you go for. So the shape is not good. And then the temperature, again, of flaming out the barrel is too high. And then a lot of times, what we do basically is just imagine it that way. We shave out the inside of the barrel, the first 2 millimeters, and imagine them in little cubes, because it makes much more sense. And these cubes now, all of a sudden, don't have just one side touching the alcohol, but 6 sides touching the alcohol. And these 6 sides are different. One is charred, right? And the others are just raw wood, basically. And these will give off a lot of tannins. If you just take in wood chips and throw them into a barrel, you will end up with very bitter stuff. Tannins, you really like to have in wine, but tannins in whiskey make it bitter and really not palatable at one point. So we developed a process where we now, with just hot water and agitation, remove tannins from the wood. Then we take that wood and toast it to a level where all the vanillins and the wood sugars and all that, what you taste in that whiskey can come out without being burned off. And we let that now interact with the whiskey. What that means is we can now shrink time down to a point where it become, all of a sudden, you don't need to worry anymore about barrel shortage. You don't need to worry about the quality of the barrel that you have. You don't need to worry about all those variations, because a good whiskey is a good whiskey now, and is a good whiskey when I buy the same one 10 years from now. But with the way we're going through barrels and wood and how the law has changed, that now the barrels can be reused, all of a sudden the really good barrels out there are getting scarcer and scarcer. And you see that. You know, a Macallan 20 years ago tastes different than a Macallan tastes nowadays. you know, and with ours, it's a very controlled environment. And that is something that we pride ourselves in, to know what are the toasting levels. We talked about barbecue versus grilling. Barbecue, we all know, has the richest flavors, right? Because it's low and slow. That's when you develop flavors. Hot and fast, like grilling, will destroy a lot of the things that you actually need. Now imagine all of a sudden you, in order to have a whiskey, you need to have that whiskey in a barrel for 3 years to be called whiskey. That's the European law. Here in the States, the Single Malt Association has just, with the TTB, redefined whiskey and made it a lot more broader than it was before in Europe. Because imagine, I live in Nevada, 4,500 feet high. If I let a whiskey age in a barrel, the angel share will be 100% after 12 years. That means I will be coming to a barrel, open it up, it's bone dry. Why? Because Scotland, for example, has a very temperate climate, not a lot of temperature change, enough for the barrel to breathe, enough for the whiskey to interact via oxidation and esterification. That is important too, but we can do that with storing the whiskey, and we take a very bland 3-year-old whiskey and make it into that one after only a couple of weeks. Issue is, I'm a skeptical guy. When I heard that and I got introduced to the company, I'm like, yeah, that's voodoo, that's black magic. I'm not into that kind of shit. Honestly, guys, all the rapid maturation guys, they're like, oh, we're playing Metallica to our whiskey, and now it tastes different. Rum guys going on a trip around to make it shake, and so on. What we decided to do is actually look at the chemistry of it. What is actually happening there? And not anecdotal, but we went to the lab, we checked it out, and we said, so how much tannins, what is where it needs to be, without adding anything outside the traditional realm. So we work with temperature like they do, we work with wood like everybody else does, but we chop up the wood and make wood flakes, we call them ennoblers, with much more surface area, and that allows us to age quicker. And has a lot of advantages for the industry. So for example, you're not binding money for 12 years and then hoping that a good whiskey comes out. You know, you're not wasting wood. The sustainability factor is insane. You know, you fell 10 trees, you get what, 5 barrels out of it? We can use the entire tree. For example, with our method, the higher costs of warehousing, and we're not even talking angel share at this point. Even angel share is what, a 1.5, 2.2% a year? Somewhere in that neighborhood. And now imagine you're killing trees and you're just fine with that, all that grain that was harvested, all that water that was spent, all the barley that you made, all that, you're just fine that 2% disappear every year. We're not fine with that.
Is your 3 years not spent in a barrel? Are you in stainless steel?
No, 3 years in the barrel by law. 3 years in the barrel by law. But we could theoretically make whiskey with barrelless whiskey is in the foreseeable future. Yes.
Right. So
the lawmakers need to change that.
And if you're 3 years in the barrel, are you doing your additional staves in those barrels, or is that
it's
a secondary
chips, but
process?
not staves? But yes. And by the way, it's a patented method.
But that idea.
But it's a
in the barrel, or is that after it comes?
It's after it comes out of the barrel. But
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yes.
After. Okay.
Yes, after 3 years barrel.
And a very short amount of time.
And then and then use our method for only 2 to 3 weeks. And
yes.
And then you accelerate all those flavors that you said. But the key is to get the excess tannins out. And that's what our patent is all about. It's about the temperature range. It's about the how much alcohol you have. So our method doesn't work well with lower percentage alcohols. Meaning if we have too much water on it, there are some things that are not water soluble. Is that the English word?
Right.
But alcohol gets them out. And so we need to be at a certain percentage. So we love to be above 65% alcohol to then use our method.
Are you using any new barrels, or all of your barrels are used?
We're using even barrel waste we could use, but we're using used barrels to get that cherry flavor. Yes, yes.
And for every expression, yeah.
Not for every expression. And that's where the Zodiac line will come in. And I can tell you how we're branching out between American oak, French oak, and we're even going hickory.
Oh.
Even going with woods that have never, ever been used to make barrels. Why?
Wow.
Because they're just not dense enough to keep the whiskey reliably in there, right? You need a very dense wood, and white oak is ideal for that. But what would happen if we just use, like I said, hickory, and put that into wood chips and put a finish on a whiskey that got its name, its body, its character already from the barrel, and now we're finishing it off with something that you have never tasted before. Pear wood finish, cherry wood
would go
Maple.
very good with brisket.
Yeah.
Maple.
I would
Yeah.
love to see fruit woods in there. And playing with the sherry and the wines, for example, getting those combinations, I think would be really outstanding. And
Yes.
like you said, with the stainless steel tanks, I think that having something, you know, I'm a huge fan of Sauvignon Blancs, and the stainless steel ones versus the ones that are in barrels, you know, you kind of make that step further beyond the Chardonnay, and you take all that oak out, and then you really get it just this clear, pure expression from the liquor itself that, you know, the wood kind of overpowers. So I'd really be interested to see if you do something that doesn't have as much wood as a stainless steel.
Imagine how, if you, like I said, patented in Europe, in America, in Canada, in Asia, and I could list all of them. But imagine you all of a sudden have in your maturation process, not the unknown factor, will it be good, bad, how good is the barrel really, but you can control how much wood do I want in it, how little wood, what type of wood, what should the wood be saturated with. You can play and have a creativity that can come out that a lot of lawmakers in Europe, for example, don't allow yet. But the barrel shortage will teach those guys really, really quickly that we need a sustainable, a greener, a better solution that is taking tradition, thinking it all the way through to what is actually happening in the barrel. And yes, we have forklifts. I don't need to roll it by hand, you know, onto a truck. So the shape is not that important. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages that we have. We're not dependent on cast anymore. The production time goes down, and we're infinitely scalable with our process as well, right? So you can do very small and very big, but the cool thing is this also works with rum. This is our line of Ramondo, where we said any wood aging could benefit from our analysis.
Very nice.
And we have 3 different ones here. And then we thought, oh, all right, let us really explore the whiskey world. And we came out with the Zodiac line. So that's the Pisces that Mark is getting for me. Because I made the stupid promise before the video started.
Right?
Prize winner.
No, wait a minute, Volker. You promised me a Cancer before you promised Mark the Pisces.
I do not have the Cancer here yet.
I'm still on my Virgo from last year. So
Virgo here, hello.
So let's talk about laws and regulations for 1 second. This bottle, 500 milliliters, very nice size. You can drink it, to taste it. It brings the price down that you're willing to experiment. 500 milliliters are illegal in the United States. You can sell whiskey in 50 mil, 100 mil, 200 mil, 375, 0.7 liters, and 750. So 700 mil and 750. But this for some reason, and I call it the deep hatred of the metric system, is why can't we sell this? So you got to imagine out of a production perspective, we need to now rebottle or not rebottle, but buy new bottles and just for the US market.
Yeah.
So this is available, has been available for a while in Europe, but then you need to jump through all the hoops and go through all the red tape again. So the reason, Bill, the cancer that you didn't get, the reason, Dylan, that you don't have the Virgo is because should I bring it in at 500 mils and you get something super duper special? But then
I'm sure they'd be willing to accept a 750.
Right, yeah.
All right.
Well, there's
so
good news on that.
Little focus group question. Would you guys prefer a 375 at, let's say, $40 or a 700 at $80?
700.
700.
375.
700.
Oh, really? It's both, but
Yeah,
You
it's
know-
both. It's a hard market in this country. You
Yeah.
can't fight that argument.
Well, I just use it as
375s
a
are
focus
tough,
group, guys, but this is
Yeah.
when you're dealing with a manufacturer like
Right.
us and a producer that has so much flexibility.
Dylan, it sounded like you had an update there.
Oh yeah, well I said there's good news on the horizon because we will all be able to try the Zodiac range soon. When the Amarone becomes available in a few months, we will also be having, just as we had these 5-box kits, we'll be having a 12-box kit
Oh,
with
wow.
50 milliliters of each Zodiac. And so as Volker was saying, each Zodiac has its own characteristics, and so that's the benefit of our process is we're able to do a unique finish in each one. So you're gonna
Beautiful.
have the bold and brawny Taurus, the elegant Virgo and whatnot.
And the edgy Scorpio.
Yeah, and these already we've submitted a few to San Francisco Wine and Spirits competition, already receiving great scores. The Virgo, speaking of which is a Saturn's wood finish, got 96 points in double gold.
Of course.
Age of Pisces that Volker was holding up got which is a double Alroso sherry wood finish that got 92 points in gold, as well as the Age of Gemini, which is a peated PX sherry wood finish that got 90 points gold as well. And then we've got a bunch of other ranges coming out, like Age of Libra is a rum wood finish that earned 93 points at Swiss Spirits Review. So really exciting stuff, and I also wanted to touch one thing on something I heard Bill saying a little bit earlier of, oh, that would go great with brisket. And to add on to the sustainability factor of everything, our noblers can be used twice, and then they can actually be further recycled into smoking chips for your barbecue or your smoker. So then you can directly impact those flavors right into your meat and your food. So you're sipping on the same thing and having a little taste of it in your brisket.
A tree is felled and a barrel is made, and there is a lot of waste. We use 100% of that tree, and even at the end, we use it 4 times, and everything will become flavor out of this tree.
Wow.
To the cheeses that we smoke with it, to the fish that we have local connections where they get the chips after we're finished with them. So we're trying to make that a very sustainable and a very, we're traditionalists on one hand, but the only way where we break with tradition is not how you get flavor in. We say taste matters, time doesn't matter. Time does not matter, taste matters at the end of the day. If I can impart flavor by being smarter, then technology-wise was what, 200 years ago, and just say, hey, more surface makes more sense, and you're not straying away from the idea of what a whiskey should be. We're not sitting here and saying we're playing Metallica to it, or we're doing whatever. What we're saying is, guys, we're Swiss.
But you can if you want. I mean, whatever. Or whatever.
I love Metallica, but I
was
really
gonna
don't
say, you
think that
guys
it makes a difference.
obviously have things under control. You guys have it down to a science.
Right.
Everything that you explained, as hearing you talk about your process, as a whiskey enthusiast, as a whiskey nut, help me totally understand why this whiskey I'm sipping here, which tastes like it's been aged 15 to 20 years, has only been aged 3 years, right? Very fascinating, very fascinating, and thank you.
I will tell
Yes.
you, to Joe's point, I'm taking a look sort of at my phone as this is going on, and my inbox of messages is full of people that are very curious about what your process is. And you know, my comments here are, to your point, it's a proprietary process. It is a natural process.
100% natural.
Yes.
It's a patented process, but that also means we're transparent with what we're doing.
Yes.
Because we're not people who try to reinvent the wheel in the sense of hey, whiskey should contain a handful of berries in it, or whatever people can come up with nowadays. I'm a beer drinker, right? And the purity law of 1516 in Germany.
Reinheitsgebot.
I'm sorry?
The Reinheitsgebot.
Reinheitsgebot. So I don't like to have chocolate or tiramisu taste or anything in my beer, because I'm a purist. And we're not violating this. We're not violating anything. We're just thinking it through to the end.
Well, Volker, what I want people to understand is, you know, whiskey process is whiskey process. And on the other side of that, as we have seen in the 4 expressions that we've tasted, and we have this one left, that there is a very compelling story to be told about how this whiskey comes together. I will tell you unequivocally, this does not taste like 3-year-old whiskey. This tastes like somewhere between a 9 and a 15-year-old whiskey, depending on which one I've tasted. It has that type of a flavor profile to it. And, you know, to the many things that you have said specifically about the process, this isn't voodoo. There isn't something that's happening behind the scenes that you're not aware of. You guys have a tremendous amount of transparency. And I think that there's something to be learned about that. I don't want people to be afraid of what this process is because it's different. I want people to be curious because all of us are being very genuine about what we feel about this stuff. You know, it's food, it's cigars, it's straight up tasting this, it's putting it into cocktails, and it's all of the things that we tasted from these individual expressions. And in as much as I can sort of put the people that are messaging me and everybody who's going to be watching this video, that there is a genuinely compelling story here to go and to look at this whiskey and say, these guys are thinking differently about this. And the product ultimately.
You know why we think differently about this, Mark?
Tell me.
Our owner, Dr. Dolph Stockhausen, was a very highly successful person in the
pharmaceutical
industry, 4,000 employees. He was the inventor of the absorbent pallets that go into baby diapers, female hygiene products. Whenever you put something on it and pour that blue liquid over it. And so this man knows about chemistry, but that's not the question. He was 72 years old and said, I've achieved everything in my life, and I go to Scotland on summer vacation with my family for the last 20 years. I'd like to have my own whiskey, because I know what's happening there. I know about vanillins, I know about wood sugars, I know about all that. But geez, I'm too old. I will probably don't have the time to wait 15 years. So let me sit down and say, what matters in whiskey? What is it really that matters? And he came up with the simple conclusion, taste matters.
Flavor matters, yes.
And we've all had 30-year-old, 20-year-old whiskeys where you say, that's not that. Nothing to write home about. Right?
There's a curve to it, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, the older the whiskey is, the higher the number and the more people desire it. But we all know that there is barrel fatigue. We all know that barrels are at one point done. And people think so simply, the higher the number, the better the whiskey, the higher the price, right?
But
we're
also
trying to disrupt this.
Also, I'm going to put some words in your mouth, right? That Seven Seals
I'm gonna
is
put some
not.
whiskey in my mouth while
We'll get to that. I'm aware of that. But as a final note, Seven Seals is not a diss to other methods. Seven Seals exist and it coexists with everything else that's out there. And exactly to
So
your
we're
point,
solving a problem that the other ones are running into very blindly right now.
but
We're
what you're
solving an
doing,
issue about
you're-
sustainability that has never been talked about, that barrels from American oak are being used for bourbon, then being shipped over. For 200 years, the Scottish industry has been dependent on the barrels coming from the US. What happens if they change the law, which they just recently did? All of a sudden, the Scottish people are cut off, and not a lot of American oak in Scotland. So we are trying to preserve this. We're trying to be the preservers of tradition when the regular routes are not easily accessible, or the quality will suffer. And we see that. The trees are younger that they fell, the wood is not as good as
more porous,
it is, and
more
we're
porous.
solving.
Sure. I think that there is a story that will continue to be told about Seven Seals
absolutely.
and the innovation that you're doing. So do me a favor, let's put a pin in this conversation, because I think we could be here until tomorrow morning talking through all of this, because it is absolutely, it's fascinating, but I think it's also imperative that the people out there who are very into whiskey, they get a better understanding of this, because I think that that's part and parcel. And if we have to have you back, and if we have to do like an Ask Me Anything or something like that, I'd love to have you back in the room to where people just ask questions about the process and people get comfortable with what's happening, because at the end of the day, what's happening is what's in your glass and what does it taste like. And this tastes like whiskey that you want to drink.
Yes, sir.
Delicious.
To
They're
finish
all
off on a very nice
delicious.
note, can I call you Alphonse?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Go ahead.
You asked two questions.
Yeah.
Where does the name come from? And I think this ties really well in to end this conversation.
The Four Horsemen.
When you don't understand something in English, you say, well, that's Greek to me. I don't get it. I don't understand the process. I don't understand this person. That's Greek to me. In German, we say, and Swiss German as well, we say, that's a book of Seven Seals to me. I don't get it, right? It's a book of mystery.
Okay.
And the Scottish people, after we've won, I think, medal number 12, came to us and said, actually, it wasn't even during the medal process. It was before. They asked us, how can you Swiss guys make whiskey that's 3 years old and beats us? 12-year-old whiskey, 15-year-old whiskey, and beats us at every competition. The owner said jokingly, yeah, that's a book of Seven Seals to you. And that means you don't know what we're doing. And there's a little bit of mystery, but yeah, we couldn't call it Greek.
Yeah. This was also at the time when the patent was being processed, and so everything was very lock and keyed away. So you can't disclose anything. So that's going to remain a mystery to you until we can tell you.
Exactly.
Are the sample kits, will something like this be available for purchase for people who want to dive into it?
Dylan?
Yeah, we're going to be, that's coming over on this shipment that we're having sent over now, along with the Amarone wood finish. So we'll have full-size bottles of the Amarone. We'll have the 5 taster kits of the classic line, and we'll also have the 12 Zodiac line tasting kits available here in really shortly. So the best way to stay informed is just signing up for our email newsletter. We just send out about once a month. You can do that on when you go to our website, a little window.
Send a self-addressed
What about the use
stamped envelope?
smoker? I want to use chips for my smoker.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, in Canada, we're
question.
selling them right now.
Yeah.
I heard
Canada,
Volker
we're-
mention cheese. I'm all about the cheese that you're saying you're smoking.
Yes, mozzarella. 150, 180 is too hot. Go 150 mozzarella and go with a mixture of apple and hickory, and you're going to be very happy. But
Nice.
but for
Send me
the
some.
chips here, we sell in Canada now little bags with chips for your smokers. As in the US, they don't like it because it's called hitchhikers. to have around the bottle. But
That
yes,
doesn't like
we want to
those.
get across that sustainability. We want to get across the greenness. And look, it's wood. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can put it in your mouth if you want to, but it's natural what we're doing.
That's Canada.
right.
When are we going to get him here?
Yeah,
I want to
exactly.
pull you all back in here.
The
quick,
works, in the
because,
works.
Yeah.
We're an hour and a half into this event. We haven't, nobody has given their opinions on this peated doublewood. So let's do that. And Volker, if you can give us, after we do that, if you can give us your PowerPoint show in quick manner, then we can wrap things up.
No, I don't need the PowerPoint anymore. I'm done. I
think we got enough. I think we got enough explanation and
going.
transparency to know that we're not getting some bullshit in the bottle here.
Okay.
100%.
So
we've tasted
so
it.
let's
We know
talk
that it's
about
not.
peated doublewood and then we can wrap this session up
Bill?
because we've all been sitting here. Yeah, Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to mention that if any of the people watching, if you want to have an easy way to get to their website, we actually have a banner that's on our website at whiskynetwork.net. So go there and just click it and you'll easily be taken over.
Very
So
good.
that
Thank
way
you.
you don't have to fuss around with trying to find it, trying to remember the URL or anything else.
Very good.
My name is Volker Huber. That's V as in Victor, OLKER dot Huber, HUBER at 7 sealswhisky.com. Send me an email. We're open. I love to talk to end customers. You know, I love to people who are whiskey enthusiasts because it pays the bills. And they share the same passion that I do. So
for a small fee, I'll give you his phone number and you can call.
All
right, Dylan,
okay.
take us through this expression.
I get honey and vanilla on the nose of this, and it's quite buttery too, almost like a Chardonnay. Which it happens that I had a little Chardonnay with dinner tonight, and my wife said this is very buttery. So yeah, it definitely fits in there. For me on the palate, it's got a creamy kind of smokiness, a fruit note that is like stone fruits, like peach, etc. And the smokiness carries through the whole thing all the way to the end, and the finish is just pleasant and lasts forever. That's my take on it. Go.
I got some brandy notes on the palate, so maybe specifically Calvados. Definitely Calvados. And then on the palate, like a creamy black sherry, agreeing about the creaminess, black cherry, kind of ending in some ash. And interestingly enough, I got the same with and without water in both cases. Just maybe a little softer, a little smoother with the water, as you would expect. But basically, this a similar nose and a similar palate.
And then also, I wanted to quickly touch on your question earlier, Bill, where we had the opportunity to move into that tangent about the stockhousing process and everything. So where the peated double wood finish comes from is that it's essentially twice through our process. So there you're engaging twice as much wood. So that's where you're kind of
okay.
That vanilla, cinnamon. Yeah, exactly.
It's a very mature tasting. Volker's on mute. Volker,
I just realized that we can reuse the chip several times if we want to, but the key is to re-toast the wood. The first toasting of the wood gives us a lot of vanillin, a lot of wood sugars. And the second, if we then use it, and the second toast is a much milder form. And now we can start talking about infusing those wood chips with, let's say, take it out of a peated barrel and put it into a non-peated whiskey, and you only get that slight flavor of it. But you have never violated the process. You know, we're master blending on wood level.
This tastes like not burnt, but like a toasted apple butter kind of flavor with a little bit of a cinnamon baking spice on the back end is kind of what I get. But the finish, and if you put a drop of water in it, the drop of water makes the double wood jumps off the page for me.
I think it's striking how they clearly are all related. and they all have a similar viscosity. I mean, if you didn't know the product and you did a blind, I feel like you could at least say that they were all from the same brand, which you wouldn't normally say with any other whiskey brand.
Hard to
Sure.
get that from everybody else, right?
Joe,
Yeah.
were you going to say something?
I was gonna say, so sipping into this peated doublewood, this to me, this is everything that Seven this is everything that Seven Seals represents. It's an explosion of all the tasting notes that we've all described throughout all these 5 expressions tonight, and this immediately went to my number 1 expression.
Wow.
It's
Let's
very
go.
good.
I'd
Let's go.
say
They're
this,
all delicious. They're just all delicious. They're ridiculous.
I don't know that this is accessible, Pete. I think that this is a big and a very sort of different whiskey. I think this is probably, one is maybe a gateway to the other, and I think the portwood does something to sort of shave a little bit of the edge off of the peat and the wood. But for somebody who is an experienced drinker with a proof point on this, and with that sort of the wood and the peat coming together, this is like a big old-fashioned whiskey.
Yeah, I killed my entire sample. I've been sipping this.
Yeah.
I think I've had more of this one than
delicious.
the
Oh, good.
It is delicious.
This
Okay,
is probably
so-
one of my 2 favorites.
Just
Oh.
very quickly. I'll go around the room, since we know, Joe, we know what your favorite is. So I'll go on my screen. Dylan, what's your favorite of the 5?
I must say I'm still impartial to the Amarone.
Okay.
Just super excited to be.
All right. Volker, I believe yours is the sherry.
The sherry wood, but you have to understand the sherry wood was about 2 years before I had the Amarone. So
It's
the
okay, Volker.
Amarone
You don't have to qualify it.
is such
he
a
said
special.
Saturdays were Amarone, so.
No. Saturdays are
Asterisk.
heated. Saturdays are green. Fridays are red, and Wednesdays are orange.
Nobody's going to judge you for loving your children unequally in this particular case.
Thank you.
Nate, tell me what
It's
crept up into
tight
your head.
between this one and the Amarone. The Amarone and the Doublewood are definitely, if I had to pick one, maybe the Doublewood by nose, but they're very close for me.
Billy?
Amarone for me. I am partial to Italian wines, and this whiskey with the Italian wine barrel really lends a lot of flavor to it and stands out head and shoulders above the rest. They're all excellent whiskeys. I would drink any one of them. And as you said before, these do not drink anywhere near 3 years old. They drink like they're much older than this. So the patent, the method that you guys have developed is just amazing. And I hope it catches on with other distilleries and we can not worry about barrel shortages anymore.
Bonds, and from your Flirtini glass, what are you going to phone home about there?
Trying to make a decision here.
I know.
No, I was going to say the peated portwood, because it's not something that you have to necessarily have to water down to get the full effect out of. And then everyone else was jumping back at the Amarone, and I'm fresh to that one, so I jumped back into it to say maybe that's what I want to see. But I would go with the 4th one in the series.
Yeah.
The portwood.
Peated
It was the
port.
peated portwood.
Peated
Yeah.
port. So
Sorry, I thought I
basically,
said that. Yeah.
we've just had a vote for pretty much everything because Joe is about the doublewood, correct, Joe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If I was going to put all these in order: peated doublewood, sherry, Amarone, portwood, peated portwood.
Vicky?
Portwood, done. Mic drop.
I love it.
Bolter?
It's really close for me between the peated doublewood and the Amarone. I think the peated doublewood, it reminds me so much of the Island Park cask strength expression this last year, which is shocking considering like that's a premium release, and you tell me this is 3 years old. The fact that it matches that in my mind.
Yeah.
It takes that much.
I love that's
right.
one of my favorite scotches from the last year, and this is pretty close. It's like
Wow.
so I have to
I love
say
that.
this one. I think the
Wow,
peated
mixed culture.
double.
That's great.
Heated Doublewood. Genevieve?
I didn't get a chance to talk about the double wood. From the smell of it when I was nosing it, it came across really heavy peat, but then when I tasted it, it was a lot less peat than I expected. So, you know, compared to just the peated port. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Of all of them, I have to say I'm extremely impressed with the Amarone. And I would go back to that one again and again, I think. And like I said, I'm ready to make another recipe that has that in it because it's just got so much flavor to it.
Love
So
that.
it's going to be a tie. So it's going to be between the Amarone finish and then I'm calling the Portwood finish.
Okay.
The
Did you
port,
ask Nate? I missed
the-
Nate. What was Nate's?
Yeah. Nate's was
I was a very it was very tough for me between the Amarone and the peated doublewood. I said peated doublewood by nose, but I could see on any given night, however you feel on a different night, it might be the other one that would be my favorite, right now. But they're both so close to me. I mean, I'm a sucker for Amarone finish to begin with. So that's and I'm a big peat fan, so they're both gonna be kind of going in my wheelhouse.
I am not unhappy that it is a tie between Amarone and Portwood. And you know what? The fact that the Portwood has just a tiny, teeny little bit of peat in it, and it just has that influence. To me, the Portwood this is a big whiskey. This is a whiskey that you can sit with and you can drink. And I think that there's a lot of flexibility here, but this checks a lot of boxes. It has an incredible mouthfeel. There's a massive amount of range in the flavor. You put a drop of water in it, it unlocks into something completely different. So it tends to be versatile. So for those two, the Amarone and the Portwood, to kind of jump to the top, I mean, heck, talking
Mark,
about.
I think you and I picked the regular Portwood and everybody else was
Yes.
picking the peated Portwood.
Yes. Yeah,
Or the
I mean,
double
look,
wood.
Ours
there's
didn't win.
no shame because I think
Ours
we
didn't
actually,
win.
yeah.
Excuse me, it's Saturday. I'm going for peated Portwood because I told you Saturday is peated port.
But
So
look,
I
at
think
the end
we have
of, at the
everybody
end of the
involved
day,
now.
we all win because we have 5 great whiskeys sitting in
Right.
front
We
of
won
us.
for sure. For sure, we won.
No,
So-
the
But
point
imagine
is,
now there is 12 more coming, and that is
Looking forward
just
to
to
it.
show off what we can do.
oh wow, I
Insane.
can't wait.
Dylan, you and I are going to have a lot to talk about in Vegas this year.
Hey, come on, I'm ready for it. We'll
I'm
bring
just
the
saying.
kit. We'll bring the kit. We'll
And
bring.
by the way, our Canadian distillery is making a rye whiskey. That
So-
is, we just sold 80,000 bottles. First
Oh my
shipment was
goodness.
25 to Sweden, out of all places.
Oh my
Pennsylvania loves rye too.
Canada?
my
International
gosh.
global impact. The Swedish people went
Rye girl
immediately and
here.
said, yes, that is something that we can support because it
So that-
tastes delicious.
That was a connection, or that was a question that was posed in the Facebook group as somebody asked, Wayne, I believe that was you, who asked about there being a rye coming soon. So
Yes,
please,
sir. We
when-
know
when-
what our tasks are.
when rye comes to the United States, please come looking back for us. We'd love to introduce this
Definitely.
to the
No, we
marketplace. and
understand
we'd
that
love
with
to
a
talk about it.
great method comes also great responsibility.
Yeah.
And we will
We
take a
will
look
do
at
what
all
we
the
can.
brown liquors
Yeah.
down the road that we can improve on.
Your
Hey, Mark.
responsibility is
Hey,
to
Mark.
make more.
Hey, Mark, can I take a second to tie all this into World Whiskey Day?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, today is World Whiskey Day. So if you are a whiskey nut and you're looking to keep your palate engaged, you have to be sipping whiskeys from around the world, like the Seven Seals from Switzerland. I know Millstone does a nice Amarone finish on theirs as well. Rockfort in Australia, they have some innovation too with those minimally aged whiskeys as well. If you're looking to keep your palate engaged, you have to be sipping stuff outside of just sticking to bourbon or sticking to single malts or one or the other, and investigate these world whiskeys, and your palate will only benefit.
Thank you.
Awesome. No, I love it, Joe. I think that that's a great point, and I appreciate you saying that. So, look, in closing, and before we get finished here, Volker and Dylan, before we go, are there any sort of final points that you'd like to make about Seven Seals, other than we're going to post Volker's phone number? He's available 24/7.
Mark, we'll be riding up there soon.
I'm done. I'm okay with that. That would not only
So
is
my
it a
final
great ride-
words are: I will go to Verizon right now, get a new phone number, and but overall, no, honestly, we're accessible guys. We're people who share the same passion as your viewers, as your members, as the panel. We all love good whiskey, and we all need to understand what good whiskey actually consists of. Is it time, or is it taste? And we say taste matters, time doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so that's my final word to that. We all enjoy a good whiskey, and a good whiskey tastes good.
Well said, Dylan.
And I think my final words will be, well, as being Swiss, there's one thing that we love, and that is to drink. So, and we are also always been known as innovators in just about any space. So I think there's one thing we're going to make sure of, and that's that you have something good in your glass. And so please just keep staying on the lookout, keep an open mind, and take a leap and try some Seven Seals, and your mind will be blown. I guarantee it.
Shop.sevensealswhiskey.com. Cheers to World Whiskey Day, guys. Cheers to World Whiskey Day, and
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us. It was really a pleasure to talk about what we do.
Hold on. I just
So I'm closing your meeting. I'm sorry.
Ready. I'm not ready.
Don't run away just yet, please. I want to thank you guys.
Who's in charge of this?
Not me, apparently.
I do apologize.
I want to thank you guys. I wasn't kidding in the story that I told about Volker at the beginning of this, that, Volker has been like open arms. He's very approachable, and Volker loves whiskey, loves to talk about whiskey. And I've had plenty of conversations with Dylan as well, that, we're all in alignment here. I will tell you that, Whisky Network is invested in this relationship, and we want to continue to bring your whiskey to our brand of enthusiasts. So thank you for coming tonight. Volker, your passion for the process, being able to speak to Dr. Stockhausen, the interview that I wrote gave me great insight into him and the things that you guys are doing. And
He
I
is
think
as passionate, and he would be sitting here with us if it was not right now 4 o'clock in the morning in Switzerland. He wanted to be there, but he said, I'm almost 80 years old. I'm as passionate as you guys, but it's 4 o'clock in the morning for me. And he is, like I said, as passionate about whiskey as all of us are. And he has found a method and a process to get whiskey where it needs to be in a shorter amount of time.
there's a treasure trove of information in the April run of stories for Whisky Network. If you go, Dr. Stockhausen is on our virtual cover. I referenced many of the stories that the folks here on this call have written for you to dive into, for you to explore. And, as many have said, there's websites that you can go to. There are plenty of ways to get into contact, ask those questions. But please, if you do anything, give this whiskey a chance. Taste it. It is taste. It is based on taste. Taste is the central character in this particular story, and you won't be let down from that perspective. And there's something for every palate. All of us have very different palates. I know that from working with everyone in this room, and it's amazing that we've all sort of come together with that. So that being said, many thanks to everybody for donating their time to this, because it's been a revelatory conversation, and I appreciate everything that's gone on. Bill, I'll let you close the proceedings.
It's almost 5 o'clock somewhere.
The
Yeah, that's
simple
absolutely
close,
true.
because Volker
Right here.
already took us to a close, but I'll say thank you to everybody, and remember to crack a bottle and share a pour.
Cheers.
Woo, baby.
Cheers.
Thank you for
Cheers,
having us.
everybody.
Thank you.
Prost. Prost is how we say in Switzerland. Prost.
That's brushed.
Prost.
I think